This picture is a picture of one of the Butterworth sisters from the wealthy Rochdale family who lived in a place called Belfield Hall, and it was painted in the 1660s, and it's been attributed to an artist called John Michael Wright, who was a painter of the sort of wealthy and famous people of the time. I think he painted like the royal family, for example. It kind of shows that this person has made it in society, or this family has made it in society. I always think it's similar to, say, perhaps getting a photograph in Hello magazine or something like that. You know, it's a sort of equivalent. As I say, the interesting thing about this picture is it's got what we presume to be an African servant pouring water over Miss Butterworth's hand, and at some stage this African servant was painted over. We presume this person was a slave, so it's almost like hiding that history, and the African servant was only rediscovered after this picture went into conservation work during the 1960s. An X-ray photograph was taken, and the conservators noticed there was a figure, and after removing the paint, a decision was made to remove the paint. After removing that, this African servant was discovered, so it's really early evidence of African people in Rochdale during the 1660s. This African servant was probably included in this picture because it was a sign of this family having made it. It's a sign of their status in society, because African servants were seen as a status symbol in that 17th century society. Why the person was painted out, we can only sort of speculate, but one suggestion might be that, say, particularly later on in the painting's history, as the abolition movement, for instance, was moving forward and there were campaigns to try and abolish slavery, then the people who owned the painting may have been ashamed, or it was not fashionable anymore to have an African servant in a picture. So that's only one sort of reason. We don't know really why that person, that is a possible suggestion. When the X-ray photograph discovered this African person in the picture, I think a decision was made at the time to try and uncover the original history of the picture. So somebody, the curator at the time, decided that it was better to get back to the original picture as the artist probably would have wanted it to have been seen in the first place. The painting is really, it's evidence of, early evidence of African people in the Rochdale area. In fact, I think it's probably the earliest evidence we've got.